Yeah, you guys are the first. You guys are the first of the
Oh, it's
first.
the first one. Cool.
Yeah. So
We're
very
glad.
cool.
I'm glad you guys.
But first of all, Semion Maria, West Coast Swing champions from Russia, currently in France. Welcome to Level Up Community.
Oh, hey. Thank you guys for having us for the first meeting.
Yeah, very cool. I'm so happy that you're able to do it. And I did want to ask you whether you liked your song to dance
Yes.
to.
Yes, we loved. The song is super sweet.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
love country. We love country style of music, especially when it's like a very sweet country. Yeah, we enjoyed dancing to it.
The one thing that I noticed, I've watched that dance so many times because obviously I edit it and then do all these things to actually get it live. But the one thing that I notice at different times is that, Maria, you're mouthing some of the lyrics. I'm like, oh, they've listened to this a couple of times at least.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, really cool. And then in my mind, when I heard the song the first time, I was like, oh, yeah, this ending is kind of nice. And I thought, what would be cool is if kind of they like went hand in hand and walked away. That's exactly what you did. That's exactly what you did. So I was like, ah, yes, this is good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually was the second shot of the video because the first or third
Is it
because
third?
the first one was interrupted by the call.
All
The
right.
second one was something else happened.
People just came into the
Yeah,
room.
like, people came into the room, and then the third one was finally
Right.
from the beginning to the end, the smooth
There's,
one.
there's so much that and I've said this to you before, Sammy, and I think where when I first was watching you guys, like way back when I think you said it was like your first ever event as pros, like one of those YouTube videos. And then I watched Budapest, which is still, it's easily still in my top 3. I'd have to like think about where it's at, but it's easily still in my top 3. Although I think you've actually, so your dancing now has like taken a whole new form. Like it's nothing like Budapest 2019. There's all this counterbalance and leverage and like movement. It's like a different Semion Maria again, like for a third time.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah, right now I think we have different inspirations in dancing, and it's happening because of many things in our life, like because we practice other stuff,
Yeah.
other movements, and it's everything what we have in our life. It's influencing our dance.
Yeah. I
And
think Maria, you were talking about you done work with some wave coach, but was it also, I've forgotten his name, but Endo or
Ido.
Anton,
Ido.
It's maybe Anton. Yeah. So Ido Portal is one of the
Yeah,
movers
Ido Portal.
that inspires us. We haven't worked with him personally. We involved in his online content, so we were also inspired by him. But in Moscow, we have our body coach. He's a former breakdancer, so he was the one who was from the very beginning of breakdance culture in Moscow.
Right.
One of the founders for his own school and professional in breakdance. And then he switched to like body program to be able to teach his students faster and
in dancing.
in dancing. And then it turned out in the whole new body system programs that he called the system like system fitness. Yeah, and after 2019, I think we started to work with him very closely. and that changed very much our perception of the body, of our own body, of the
Yep.
perception of the dance in terms of partner work, in terms of body work, how we influence to each other with the dance, especially West Coast swing, because it has the weight usage of each other. Yeah, so during the
Yeah.
West Coast swing, we use each other a lot.
'Cause that's what I see even more now. Like, I think at one point, I think it might have been this year, Semi, and I said, I made a mention to you that, I've watched so many of your videos, and I'm like, "I'm gonna steal this, I'm gonna steal this, I'm gonna steal this." And then now I'm watching it going, "I don't know that I can even steal this and do this with someone." There's so much that has to be within the partnership. Yeah, it's beautiful dancing, and I love watching it. So I just wanted to start with it. And your
Thank you very much.
dance that you did for us was, like, exceptional. I loved every minute of it.
Thank you, and we loved every minute, every even more minutes or few minutes than just one dance.
Um, I'd also like to just say thank you to everyone who's come on. I can see Mo, Claire, Vic, who I just spent the weekend with, as well as Mo and Claire at Go West just this weekend gone. Andy's jumped on, which is cool. Um, just want to say hi to all of you. The plan today is that I'm going to ask a couple of questions of Semi and Maria that's been asked. And then if we get time after that, we'll just open it up. If you guys have a question, you'll be able to ask Semi and Maria directly. So the first question is just around the arcs and the system of arcs. Um, the question is this to be used everywhere? Do you always find that you use it, even though it's a linear dance? Do you always find that you're using arcs through all your movement? Um, and then the second part of the question was directed mainly if the leader isn't using arcs, because you mentioned this in the video, Maria, that sometimes if it comes down after rotation on a diagonal, it's kind of sharp and can put strain on your shoulder. The second part of the question is how, as a follower, can you keep that sort of rounded arc shape? Like, what are some tools or some advice that you could give to help followers round that out?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so for the first part of the question, about if it's used everywhere, I feel like we use it literally everywhere. The direction of the arc can be different, like the exact plane of the arc where you position the arcing movement can be different, but some archy trajectory always there.
Curved.
Yeah, like a little bit curved, so that creates very smooth transitions, even in a quiet, sharp redirections. So sharp doesn't mean some very sharp corner, yeah, very sharp
Angle.
angle of the trajectory. It still can be curved, just
Yeah,
a little bit to create it smoother.
yeah. Just on that really quickly then, in Australia at the moment, there's a lot of people who are learning from some European teachers, say Jacob and Emmeline.
Mhm.
Um, and then we have in Adelaide, we have some US teachers. And Jacob and Emmeline, I think, teach more the constant connection. And then some of the US teachers teach uh, catch and release.
Mhm.
Would it matter if you're doing catch and release for the arc? Because if you're using constant connection, you can feel the connection all the way through, and you're kind of providing that resistance everywhere. As a follower, you're providing that connection. But if they dance catch and release where they kind of go into a stretch and then it goes really light in the middle of a pattern, is it any different, or is it the same that you would still use a system of arcs everywhere?
The type of connection through the arc does not matter. You can like the connection, and I think we will also explain it. Yeah, while we will talking about during the next questions, right? So it's
Yep.
as soon as we have a point of contact, right? And the connection can be around the same, or we can use each other more or less, and the connection can slightly or not slightly be changing during the movement. And the trajectory of this point of contact, is it an arc or is it a line or it's any kind of shape, and it doesn't really matter. So the connection can be constant, right? Kind of like the same, or it can be different. But sometimes people say constant connection, but they do not mean that it's the same level of connection.
Yeah.
Constant connection means that we are constantly connected and we feel each other. So we pay attention to the sensations of the connection.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that the connection maintains the same level of usage of each other. So sometimes words can corrupt us, and we have to be
Yeah.
careful with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of pros who've said it's actually variable constant. So it varies, but it's always there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How much consistency in that constant connection, and if it's like if it has a small change, yeah, because sometimes if there is the range of like 1 to 10, and if the connection is somewhere around 5, yeah, in the sensation, so the difference from 5 to 4 and from 5 to 6 can still be as a constant connection, can still be
Yep.
perceived as a constant, but it may, like for 1 or 2 points, differ from like the middle point. um, of course, the difference from 1 to 6 we will feel as a release, yeah,
Yep.
somewhere, just because the difference is bigger on the range. Yeah, and it can be very different. It just gives a very wide perspective on how connection can be perceived.
Yep. So the second part of that question, Maria, is as a follower,
Mhm.
how might you adjust if your leader is bringing your hand down sharply to protect your own shoulder? Like, what's something that you might do, or tell others, try this?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, of course, I use arcs everywhere when I can use it. Yeah, so I have a little bit of like archy movements in my arms. But of course, if my leader is stronger and there are no arcs and I can't produce this arc, in the sharp motion of a sugar tag that we had an example, the quick turn towards the connection point might help even more, rather than trying to apply the arc and fighting with lots of resistance of the leader. Yeah, so that can be like a quick ninja turn. Yeah, that might reduce the tension. Yeah, for the shoulder joint. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that what I either use arcs over quick turn if I feel that I am unable to create the more comfortable trajectory for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nice. Um, I'll move it along. For the drops drill, we
Mhm.
did in the drills, we saw the dropping on the 2. Maria also mentioned you could use the same technique for the 1. Um, Someone asked, how often is this used? I think Monique was sort of saying, I'm not supposed to do this all because literally we had competitions on the weekend. She's like, I'm not supposed to dance like this for the whole thing. I went, no, no, no. I think this is a drill.
Yes.
But I just wanted to check. And then how often would you use it? But also, is it more like a styling or a musical thing that you add that for contrast? Or do you also use it for your weight change and, um, acceleration or anything like that?
Mhm. Yeah, we use it fundamentally for the power perspective. Every time when we have a goal to create a powerful transition, a weight transfer or rotation, or when we would like to exchange momentum between each other, we use it. Of course, it might be also musical goals when we would like to hit some sounds in the music. And I highly recommend for you to practice and do it a lot, if you don't use it. But if you already feel it in your body, if you already have it in your body, if you already use it, you don't need to use it that much. Just use it when you need it in your dance, when you want to use it, but you don't need to. It's not a waltz, right? We
Yeah.
don't dance West Coast waltz, right? You don't need to use this swing up and down every 2 beats. But if you want, you can. We, in my opinion, do it pretty often. And if I analyze other dancers, um, like champion level dancers, pro dancers, most of them use it a lot because it's free energy. When we drop our center of gravity down, we receive free energy because we live on the planet Earth. And because of the gravity, we can use this energy and have a transition into any type of movement. And that's very easiness is there, effortless is there, and we immediately create power from there.
Yeah, I agree. So it's more like two big groups of the goals that we can reach, yeah, by this drill. The first one is, as Simon said, to create power for the transition, for the weight change, for the rotation. And the second group is styling, musicality, like just because I want to do that, like that kind of group. And as Simon said, as a drill, yeah, you can practice it a lot. Us, during the actual dance, we don't really think about the exact proportion of us doing it. We just do where we want and where we need. Yeah, because we trained that drill and it's already in our pocket and we just use it during the dance.
Yeah.
Uh, so, of
That's
course,
what I felt like from the drill. It was more like just get used to the movement from the different positions. And
yeah,
then as it feels kind of useful or natural, you
exactly,
might
exactly.
utilize it.
So, as you said, to do it on a competition on every beat, it obviously not a good idea. But as a drill, to practice it as a drill, and then smoothly incorporate it during the dance and see where you actually can use it. Yeah, that's a very good drill.
I tell people, Semion, that when I talking about the style of the one and the anchor and flying and all this sort of stuff, I repeat your words to so many people and say, Semion has told me we want to dance without the effort. And like when you said utilizing gravity, it's kind of one of those things where you're just, not having to spread the effort. We talked about tensegrity in the past, but like that's distributing the effort equally. The gravity is also just taking advantage of what we have now. So
Yeah,
that makes
for sure.
sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, the other question was about stretch and posting. Andy's actually on the call, I think. Andy, I don't know if you want to ask the question about posting, but I'll ask the question about stretch first. Um, I actually just had a private lesson with Delina, and we were talking about this. So, um, she said for acceleration, like for doing acceleration and really like moving her, she wanted me to give her even more stretch to give her that spring to kind of play off. And she said, I often do controlled release with a little bit of stretch, but not much. And that came into this question of, well, when we watch a lot of pros dance, we can maybe only see very small amounts of stretch. Like if we watch Jakub and Emmeline, it looks very small. They are stretching, but we don't see in the hand like this movement or stretching away, not like a deep stretch. It's more like maybe a lighter connection. And it's hard for us to translate. Does this mean they're still doing stretch everywhere when they go into uh, an away connection? And does it vary during a dance? Like, is it just something that sometimes you might only do it very lightly because it's playful and you're doing more musical things? Or do you find that you're using a strong stretch all the time at the beginning of a movement?
Mm. So, I feel like here we would ask, how would you define stretch and posting? Because
Yeah.
it can be very different.
So I think this is the question. How do we define it? I don't know. You're the champions. Can you define it for us?
Yeah, but
Because
here,
this is the confusion. We've heard so many different things over the years in Australia, and, like, I could speak to 5 different people in my local class, and I say, "Well, Robert Royston said this once, and Maxon's told me this," and everyone thinking, "Well, that's the way," but I don't think it's like that. I think it's like it's all the way.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we're here not to give you answers. We're
Mm.
here to give you the field of thinking and digesting and processing, and maybe move a little bit differently. Yes. So it's kind of like the researching area, researching and playing by using different rules. Because as soon as we set the specific rules for in our dance, sometimes this limit is too tight and we cannot express ourselves to do what we want to do. And sometimes our rules are too abstract, and we have the field is too big for us, and we feel lost there. Yeah. So stretch is as soon as we have a point of contact, right? Or stretch or compression, and we use this point of contact as we use the floor. And when I move away from my partner, I use the floor, I use my body to move, and I use the point of contact. So I use both at the same time. So that's why it's important I say that I use the point of contact, because I can create stretch right in my body when I move just by myself, and I use my body and I use the floor, but I don't use the point of contact. And this will what we call fake stretch. It doesn't feel and doesn't look like a stretch. Okay, so
Is
it's
that I mean, is that just on that when you're not using the floor, but when you're using the connection or the point of connection, is that similar to what Robert Royston would talk about the shared center?
exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. Yes, I just use different words, but I'm explaining exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Or it could be the other way around when I use connection, but I don't use the floor and I don't use my body that much. So I use connection mostly, right? So we need to find the middle ground when we use point of contact and we use the floor, and the effort is equal in
Mhm.
our body. So we're dancing and we use kind of like two floors. One is under our feet
Mhm.
and one is our connection. So we use two floors at the same time.
Yeah. There is the idea that also Robert Royston explains that our limbs, our arms, and our legs correspond to different planes. So our legs correspond to the plane of the floor, and our arms correspond to the plane that is perpendicular, the vertical
Yeah.
plane. And that's where the whole idea of the arcs come from, because our arms are connected to that vertical plane, and the change uh, relating to that plane uh, influence the trajectory of our arms. Yeah, so that where
Yeah.
all the arcs come from. Um, yeah, so talking about like moving away from each other, moving away from the vertical plane and shared center, create the sensation of the stretch that we can at first feel with our palms. Yeah, so that it's not actually the stretch. We would feel we would feel more pressure inside our palm and like the base of the fingers, that we're calling stretch because we're moving away from each other. And that movement away can be structured also differently. So our center of gravity moving away from the shared center, yeah, from the vertical plane. And that you can see where is the center of gravity of the body relating to the base of support, and the
Yeah.
base of support is the that point on the floor that is touching the floor, so it's our foot or feet on the floor. And if our center of gravity is moving like away, like on the border of that base of support, sometimes even over the border, yeah, that creates stretch and leverage idea, yeah, the opposition idea.
You know, when you're describing this, I had a flashback to when I first heard about stretch. I'd been dancing for about a year, and my training partner was Courtney, and we said, "Let's meet at the studio and we're gonna practice stretch." But we didn't know what stretch was. So then we're there going, "We think this is it." And then we said, "All right, well, we'll just dance and we'll do it." And halfway through the song, we kept saying to each other, "Did we just stretch?" Like, "Is this it? Did we just do it? I don't know." And I think it's like we understand the mechanics of it, but then when you really feel it, it's like that's what I think everyone who dances West Coast swing, when they have that experience of stretch and the shared weight,
Mhm.
even in compression, same thing.
Yeah.
That shared weight and that playfulness with the other person. That's the big, oh, I love this dance. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's one of the, I don't know if it happens. I don't do other partner dances, but I don't. I think that everyone that I speak to, if they get a good stretch and they know how to stretch, they just love that part of the dance.
Yeah, yeah, and the beautiful idea is also that the amount of stretch can be very different, and that you also can see like different pros. Sometimes even one couple can use different range of the stretch intensity. Yeah, for some transitions we don't use a lot. Yeah, we use a little bit of opposition that already allows us to do the goal of the movement. And for some movements we have to go like deeper away from each other to gain more energy out of it. Yeah, so the range of that opposition can also be very different.
Yeah.
Mm.
The core idea of that we have a point of contact and the floor, and we use both, and that's the idea of stretch and compression. That's fundamental is there. But how we organize our own body inside of the system, right? And that's how we
Mhm.
influence each other. That could be done in so many ways, and that's where we can be confused. But the core idea is still there. We use the point of contact and we use the floor.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, amazing. Um, Andy, I was just going to ask Andy, do you want to ask your question about posting? I've got it and I can ask it, but if you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask. He hasn't, so I'm just going to ask on his behalf. Um, he may not be able to at the moment. I know he's got young kids as well, so they might be screaming in the background. Oh, he's just said, sorry, he's got some tech issues at the moment. Okay, so so Andy's question, I think this is familiar for a lot of us. Again, in Australia, I don't know if this is any different anywhere else, but recently one of the pros at Swing Station was saying, "Hey, when we're judging you in," and he was specifically speaking to novice, and he said, "Don't use floating anchors because we want to see the technique of posting and then tripling and stretching away." And it was just general advice. He wasn't saying don't ever use floating anchors. He was just giving advice for competitions. But then a lot of us have been told, well, the post previously was given and used to be very rigid. So it was kind of given as a point for to say to the follower, okay, now's your time to play.
Mm.
Whereas now it seems like it's almost a lot more relaxed. It can change levels, even like it can move a bit side to side in a bit of the sway in the groove. That it's not fixed in space. How would you say specifically about this? Is it static in space still? Is that what still eh, like the norm? Or would you say it's just got a little bit more malleable movement in space? How
Mhm.
would you describe it? And how? What do you guys do with your posting? How do you communicate the post?
Can I start?
Okay, I will continue.
You did such a long breathing.
Yeah.
And I interrupted you.
Yeah, because I had the memory of Maria Rabao at that right at the moment of the question of the at place of floating.
Okay, go.
Yeah, so that's because we kind of asked Mario Rabao back in the days when we had a lesson with him. Like we were lucky to had a few lessons with him back in the days, and we asked the same question, and he was like answering in a very interesting way. We didn't see it coming, and he was like, if everyone I mean most of the teachers agrees that the uh, anchor at place is the anchor, uh, that could be like the main option, because floating anchor, there are some pros that would say that not the basic anchor, that not the it's not what we're looking for. So that was the point of like what is actual technique and what are the variations. So about the anchor at place, everyone would agree that there's anchor, that this is like West Coast swing anchor, and the floating anchor, some would be disagree that it looks like West Coast swing anchor, and that gives us just like the idea that we would need to balance like those ideas, because we love the floating idea as well, but we would love also to see how to make the stationary like anchor at place the one that will also enjoy dancing. And when you said the rigid idea, I would dig in why it feels rigid, like why, where is the rigidity comes from. Does it come like that body doesn't feel very comfortable? Does it come from the place where we would love to find some ability to move but stay in that place, and how? Yeah, because me, I enjoy anchors at place very much. That means that I can express even more rather than during the floating idea when I need to cover the space and dance something at the same time. Yeah, so this is just my perspective of it.
And is that just, Maria, is that just that you would like also to have the mixture for the contrast as well, like to have a bit of both so that you can play with both?
Yeah, I totally enjoy floating idea of the anchor as well. For me, it's more like a variation that gives me different opportunities. Yeah, and the anchored place gives me other opportunities that I also enjoy. Yeah, so I love them both.
And to put it into context, sorry, the to have both styles in each dance is what I meant. Not like a whole song I'm going to be floating everywhere, or a whole song I'll be fixed. But more that variation.
Yeah, yeah, I would say.
Just you did mention about the rigidity. One illustration. So I just want to get some clarity around this for Andy as well. One illustration we've been given. I've been in classes where this has been said, where they talk about posting. Is they actually say it's like I got a post and I hammered it into the ground, and this is the point in space where I'm going to, as a leader on the four, I'm going to hold my hand in that position. It's not that my arm is rigid, it's just that I try to maintain this spot. Um, is that still kind of in the essence of West Coast swing now, that it's in this definite post spot, or does it still kind of move a little bit through the connection just as you're sharing the weight and like finding that connection?
Hmm. Yeah, your point of contact where you have connection, right? You can move this point of contact. If we're talking about the pattern structure, as an example, what you just said on 4, and then on 4 and on 5 and 6, you can leave it at one place. Or you can post it on 5. So for example, on 4 it still moves, and then on 5 and 6 it stays in one place. Or you can go 4 and then you continue to move 5 and then you post it on 6. or even you go 4, 5, 6, and then 1, right? So there are so many options and possibilities. And for me, that's the parameter of the contrast. So we call it spatial structure. Yeah, there is pattern structure, rhythm structure, body language, and spatial structure. So we can play with the pattern, yes. We can play with the rhythm, yes. We can play how we move our body, yes. But we also can play with the spatial structure, with the space. So in viscous swing, yes, we have slot, we have stretch and compression. That gives us already a limitation in space. But we can also limit ourselves in space, and we can dance sugar push at one place, or we
Yeah.
can dance sugar push and travel a lot. So we play with this spatial structure, with how much we move. And I think sometimes just people prefer to dance and move around, and some people prefer to dance at one place. And I think we need to, as dancers, we need to experiment and play with both. And sometimes we ask our students dance, mm, like we have a drill to dance one step, for example, count one, and then for 16 beats or for 8 beats, stay at one place and dance on your count one, just staying there. So dance at one place for every step of your basic. It means that you will feel more and more and more comfortable to be there and pose and groove and play with your rhythm, play with your body language, and the ability to stop and stay whenever, wherever you want. It's such a great tool because it's more, probably for some people, I guess, it's more kind of like normal to move in space. And that's how they feel that they are dancing. They have a dancing moment right now. But
Right.
when I'm standing at one place and I'm still, or I move just a little bit, right now I still, for me, it's a state of dancing. Right now I'm dancing, but I'm
Yeah.
sitting on the couch and I move just a little bit. But for me, it's dancing. So it's a just different perspective on the body movement. And I think when we have such a big variety that we can move in space, or we can be completely still, but it's also dancing, gives us a huge opportunity to move differently.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. I love it when you say things like, "Well, sometimes I get my students to do this." 'Cause the last time you said that, you said, "Sometimes we ask our students just to dance, but don't do any West Coast swing." So so I've done that. Do you know how awkward that is? That's it's like, "What are we doing?" But it's a really cool drill, like, to try to create something in a partnership, but leaving all the patterns alone, and then the thing that I found out of that drill was always that, all of a sudden you're using connection so much more. Um, I taught a level up workshop where I used that, and I said, "This is a Semion drill," and I said, "We're gonna call it break the rules. So we're not gonna use this slot, we're not gonna use this, we're not gonna do a triple step." And I said, "You've got to now break the rules." So every time I would call break the rules, no one was allowed to dance West Coast swing. It was hilarious. And then one of the guys went home and he told his teacher about it. And his teacher told him up and said, "No, you need to do the rules." Because he's still very new. He said, "Don't break the rules yet." It's like, yeah, no, I agree with him.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I feel like those exercises they help to expand uh, the idea of Wisconsin and kind of like incorporate other ideas into it, and even to see the difference between the West Coast swing core and something else. And when
yeah.
you will see it very, very clearly, the integration into comes very smoothly.
Do you know what's when I did that drill with those people, and then I realized I walked away and I thought, "Oh, I had solo dancing before I started West Coast swing. So I can just move. If you turn on a song and I like it, I'll just dance." But then I realized Oh, so many people are taught to West Coast swing, but they're not taught to dance. And it just made me even more aware of how some people say how they are so uncomfortable in doing that. Is because we don't teach people to dance, we teach them to West Coast swing, which is such a powerful drill. The one thing that you mentioned, I'm gonna train that now as well, and mix that in. At this point, I really appreciate you answering those questions. Things could go haywire right now because I'm gonna open up to the community to ask a question. I don't know what they're gonna ask, but if anybody has a question that's listening, you've all got your microphones off. I appreciate that. If your microphone doesn't work, but you have a question, any question at all, type it in the chat. Clara Mo, do you have a question?
Mainly for probably like Semion, how do you use your legs through the floor? And I notice you've got like a lot of power through, I guess, through the ankle and how you sort of use your hips.
So how we use our legs. I love to teach as an example what we just talked about, like different rules, right? For example, that's what we did for years with Maria. We used to do it by ourselves and shared with the people that we use our legs and we use the floor a lot. Yes, and then at some point we discovered that that's also a limitation. If we use the floor a lot and we use our legs a lot, that gives us a lot of power, a lot of tension, a lot of strength in our dance, but we lose micro movement, we lose freedom in our legs, in our joints, in our hips and knees and ankles, and we lose some footwork variation, we lose some weakness, because of when our body is weak, there is also beauty there. It doesn't have to be necessarily only strong and strength and powers there. Okay, so that's why right now I love to share falling and flying technique of the step, which Steve also mentioned a little bit. And there we love to share the technique of what we call butterfly fart. It means the effort in my legs and in my body, which I use for a simple step for just weight transfer, is very, very, very small. So it's as smallest effort as I can, and then I initiate this effort, and then I wait my body continue to go, and I take a step. So the idea is that um, our legs not necessarily can be strong, but also very, very, very weak, and we can use them as less as we can. And when we use our legs as less as we can, it gives us so much freedom in our body and in our legs and our hips and knees and all the major joints, which gives us huge possibility for the creativity, for the footwork and different positions and shapes in our legs. So that's kind of like to summarize. If we are talking about the power and strength which we use in legs, I encourage everyone to use not just a huge usage of the flow, but also as minimum as you can, which will give you different possibilities also.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I feel like these two ideas also create the wider range. Yeah, so you can push with the legs and use the floor a lot. Yeah, and for example, if you move backwards, you're gonna push with your legs slightly forward, yeah, to create that transition from the floor. And the other way around, if you move forward, yeah, the intention of your leg work will be more backward to create that forward movement. And the idea of the fly will give you the other side of the range. Yeah, so how to create the same movement with the minimum effort of just allowing your center of gravity to go and catch it with the leg. Yeah, so it again gives you the wide range, and you can use every parts of that range. If you want to have like more muscular, like very strongly articulated legs, you can use this side of the range, yeah, which will be like more muscular pushing and muscular usage into the floor. Or you can use the other side of the range to create the lighter articulation, faster leg movement, yeah, because they will be able to catch your center of gravity faster. Yeah, so that will just again will add more, also different picture on how you see and how you feel your own leg work.
Another example I can bring right now, it's kitchen weights. If you have kitchen weights at home, you can experiment. You can touch the surface with your finger and measure how much pressure you have. And you can do like 10 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams. It will be fun for your sensitivity of your fingers and your hands. But you can do the same with your free leg, with your foot. You can touch kitchen weights with your foot, right? And it's very difficult to do 10 grams with your foot because our feet are not that sensitive and not that well coordinated like our hands. So, but maybe you will be able to do like 50 grams or 100 grams and maintain this number. It will be like going from 90 to 110, 190, 110, right? And stay there and then do like 200 grams. Why it's important to have this sensitivity is because when you are standing on one foot, right, and another leg is free, another foot is free, and you can create a footwork with your free leg, right? And when you create a footwork with your free leg, like a moonwalk, right? When you do a moonwalk, if you put more pressure with your free leg into the floor, that will create different sensation in your body and it will look differently. But if you do the same footwork, the same moonwalk, but you barely touch the floor, so you have as less pressure with your free foot into the floor as you can. So the same moonwalk, the same footwork will be there, but it will look and feels completely differently. So the ability, your sensitivity of your body is the ability that you can do the same thing, the same position, the same shape, but the feeling, the sensation, and the picture for the audience will be very different.
Thank you. That was great.
Amazing. It just reminded me actually when you were saying that a follower had a lesson with Maxence, and you talk about Maria as a follower when you're stepping forward that you control the weight transfer, so you have a they call it sending and receiving foot. You just mentioned that, like when we're talking about power through your legs and controlling your transfer. And she said to me, "Do you know what Maxence told me?" And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Stop resisting. I just want you to fall." And so, because of the way that he likes to lead, he wants to move and get the momentum. And then she was like, and she's been dancing for years. And she was like, and she's very good. She's an advanced level dancer. And if she was overseas, she'd be all star already. But she's like, hang on, you want me to fall? What? Like, this is not what I've been doing. Um, but that extra flight, and I think it's like you said, Sammy, and with you've worked with me on this, and if anyone's watching this, there is a recording of our private in 2023 at Asia Open where you said how if we're flying, your receiving foot moves behind you so that you catch and you transfer nicely. In your words, you dance, yeah, you fall beautifully to catch the weight. And I think it's the same thing, like not so much using the resistance, but just having the position of the feet frees up your body, frees up your movement, everything.
We had also like the whole theme with our coach with Anton in Moscow, and he was like, "Let's learn how to fall." And for me, it was at first not very obvious because we all appreciate balance and the stability very much, like especially from the followers' part, because we also spin a lot, or like we respond to a lot of impulses from the leader, and we kind of receive, we maintain the stability and balance. So for me, it wasn't the obvious twist. But when we learned the fall and we learned the different structure of how we can fall, that increased my stability even more, because I started to feel where I'm falling like sooner. So I could either go with that fall, yeah, and to create something out of it, or I can use my free leg or change my body structure to somehow maintain the stability. Yeah, so for me, it was a very non logical twist. Yeah, not to train the stability, but to train something completely opposite, but
Yeah.
which actually lead me to gain more stability, because that was the goal of that. Yeah,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah,
amazing.
we love to say that the stability in your balance comes from the sensation of losing your balance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we constantly lose our balance, and that's why we're so stable.
Yeah. My performance coach years ago gave me an illustration talking about Casey Stoner, who was Australia's greatest motorbike rider. He would race motorbikes. And when you would watch him, he would go around a corner and the bike would be like wobbling all over the place. And what he said is that with Casey Stoner, the way that he trained is most people would get on a bike, and as soon as it started to fishtail and slide on the back wheel, they would slow down and like ease off the accelerator, apply the brakes, gain control, and then go again. And he said what Casey Stoner did is he said, no, I'm going to practice the out of the understanding the feeling of being out of control, so that his bike is out of control, but only by doing that over and over and over, he actually ended up with even greater control. And
Exactly.
I think this is what you're saying about the balance is like if you learn by falling and you learn by falling this way and this way and this way and this way, you now have 20 ways to fall beautifully.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And if you look at West Coast Swing world, most of the professional dancers, champions dancers, top of the top in the world, they're contemporary dancers. We are not contemporary dancers. So we talk about things which are not obvious for us. That's why we talk about it. Because the falling and flying technique and how to catch your body and use the floor, that's not natural, that's not obvious for us because we don't have that experience in this. That's why we talk about it, because it's important for us, because for years we didn't know about it and we danced without this knowledge. But then at some point this knowledge and this experience changed our dancing. And like Benji or Jakub or Nicole, right? All of them are contemporary dancers. Maxime, Nini. So it's natural for them because they've been doing this. They've been falling into the floor and landing softly with the whole body for years. So they're not afraid to lose their balance because they did it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. I
And
didn't
jumping
know
is
that.
a very good base for the body, because it also has lots of torsion, lots of dissociation in the body, lots of going through with the impulse of the body, like using the floor work.
The same thing in martial art, judo. It's maxons. Yeah. When you come from martial art, from judo, it's a partner work. It's constantly falling on the ground. That's the best thing you can possibly have for West Coast Swing.
Or the breakdance.
Yeah. It was funny. I gave Maxence a hug, and he was talking to me about his weight. He dropped a bit of weight, but he put on some over the COVID break. And because I was saying I'm a big guy, like I have to manage my weight. He's like, yeah, I'm a big guy. But when I gave him a hug, he's got muscles on muscles on muscles on his back. I'm like, you're different to me. That's from his judo. He's just like solid muscle. It was the same actually when Semion. I tell people this when Semi, you said, "Oh, I want you to put your hand on my abdomen because you wanted me to feel like your core in the movement and the way that you were kind of bowing." Um, and I was like, I tried to show one of the guys at the next event. I said, "Do this." I'm like, "Yeah, you can't feel it." Because Simeon has washboard 6-pack abs, but I don't have. So I just thought, "I'll forget it. You'll have to ask Semion when you see him." Um, we are almost out of time. I don't know if you've got time for one more question. I don't know, Vic, if you have a question, because I see you've been here all call, and I don't know if your mic is working. Vic may not be able to talk at the
And thank
moment.
you, Semion Maria.
Oh,
Vince is here too. We don't have a question, but we've really enjoyed listening today.
Thank you. We enjoyed it too.
amazing.
Thank you.
Did you guys want to end with anything in particular? We really value your time, and like everything that you've just said is really a big help for us in the community. So I appreciate that. I love you guys. I wish I could see more of you and dance with you and see everything live. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, and thanks for delivering and being our very first guests on Level
Thank
Up.
you, guys. Steve, thank you so much for bringing us to your community, especially like for the opening. That's amazing. Yeah, we're grateful for this time that we spent with you, and we hope to see you somewhere. I don't know, Asia Open
Fingers
maybe
crossed.
this
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
See you somewhere on the dance floor.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
see you somewhere.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Bye
you. Bye
bye.
bye.